lot of Americans love Japanese cars. Some of them like anime. And why not? Japan has had a long history with making enthusiast cars, made popular thanks to family soap dramas and little cartoons like... Anime is so deeply intertwined into car culture and has become such a Nista worldwide influence. Drifting, Eurobeat, jailbait raps. There are entire YouTube channels made popular thanks to anime and JDM, and the next Need for Speed will reportedly be anime inspired, and there's almost no new anime shows. And for that matter, there's not a lot of fictional motoring shows in general. Also, the manga for this is actual trash, and reading it makes my water boil! So let's just put a rain check on both those issues. Let's face it, making a cartoon is friggin' expensive. But you know what's cheaper than an animated series with a well-written story, relatable characters, and meaningful themes? Nostalgic ads. Earlier this year, two of the most anticipated Japanese enthusiast cars were revealed. The GR-BR86Z and the Acura Integra, the official car of it's no longer the 90s anymore, which, to be fair, a lot has changed in the past 20 years. Because this car isn't for you, no, you anime weeaboos and your JDM fantasies, no. This car was built for people like me. I am an architect, or a technology manager, perhaps a prestigious museum art director. Regardless, I cannot show up in the office in some boy racer car like the Civic Si or the Elantra N. 0 to 60 times and quarter-mile comparisons are of no relevance to me. What I need is safety, reliability, and modern luxury, something interesting but appropriate for when I descend into the workplace. For example, a BMW M5, an Audi S4, perhaps even a Mini Cooper if I so desire. But most of them don't offer manual transmission options, which is why I purchased a 2023 Acura Integra A-Spec with the optional manual transmission and limited slip differential. It provides me with the slow car fast experience around town, while still returning an average of nearly 40 miles to the gallon. Honda boy racers are up in arms around the Integra nameplate and its legacy. They want the new Integra to embody their memories of a long time gone, to be made for them, but it's not. Why should Honda build a compact, lightweight sports car? No, the Acura Integra is exactly what it needs to be. A fancier Honda Civic. Just like Acura, it is made for people like me. Thank you, Acura. In January, Toyota released Faster Class, a campaign to promote the launch of the 86. Their advertising partners made a bunch of cool stuff, but the ones weeps liked is this. Animated by California-based Gloomhead Studio, Toyota X Initial D has The Vibe, a modern interpretation of Initial D with the same fast, frantic Eurobeat rush. And its main collaboration with the creators of the Initial D anime. And they deleted all the video ads. But surprisingly, Toyota weren't the only ones with this idea. For those who don't know, Acura is American Honda's luxury division and Lexus competitor. And these last few years, Acura has been undergoing a brand reinvention to return to their roots as a performance brand. Your mileage might vary. And this was their ad. Developed by London-based The Line Animation, Type S Chiaki's Journey tells the story of Chucky, an angry bird who wants to be e-boy rich man in a race because he's so rich and cocky. So the dirty feminist takes a 50k sedan plus 25k in markup to race the crazy rich Asian, but her uncle stops her race, mansplains that she's too angry because of daddy issues, and gives Chiaki a small loan of his one-off 350 NSX Type S supercars to beat the shit out of E-Rich. Chiaki trains. E-boy is a narcissistic stalker. They race. Chiaki wins. Closure? Cliffhanger. To be continued. To call its story bad will be quite unfair and true. The The characters are so bland and lacking in depth that tofu-eating Takumi feels like Ryan Gosling by comparison. The plot is like reading an example script in a screenwriting class.
Also, why does the dad have to come back? This kind of plot twist doesn't work. Why can't he just stay dead?
Honestly, there's so little for me to criticize when there's so little plot substance to talk about. The initial D-ad was also pretty bare bones, but it doesn't need one when it's already based on an existing story. Acura doesn't have that luxury, car joke, especially when their cars haven't been mainstream media stars. What was there, a drunk Tony Stark who later switched to Audi? That's not even Fast and Furious. But it's not really the line's fault. A predictable story is perfectly acceptable when it's engaging and told creatively. That's what the hero's journey is. But you can't do that when the entire series lasts 4 minutes total, 40 seconds of which was the intro sequences. To be fair, as an ad, it also has a lot of strong points. Not quite as good as the other one, but that's my Toyota bias showing. The cel-shaded animation feels so alive compared to some other anime-style ads.
It's got breathtaking environments and beauty shots that just don't last long enough. You see little visual details like the anime taillight showing how Chiaki's driving improves. There's even a bunch of Honda and Acura Easter eggs around, not to mention that most of the series takes place on the Grand Prix of Long Beach.
And at key plot points, you can see where the budget clearly got poured into. The animators did a hell of a job, and the line claims that they developed new animation techniques for this ad campaign. And the core message is very Initial D inspired. Precision without power, power without precision. Precision crafted performance, it's the slogan. Oh, and Nemophila is a pretty good J-pop band. All that said, unless they plan on making sequels for the inevitable new models, calling Chiaki's Journey a series is quite misleading, because Acura sponsors the Sundance Film Festival and showed Chiaki's Journey there, presumably as ads in between the films. Personally, I think it was a missed opportunity. They could have gone the extra step or two to make a 10-15 minute short film, maybe as a proof of concept to get funding for a real series.
When Chiaki's Journey was initially revealed, people assumed that it was going to be an actual series. And in hindsight, it makes sense that it wasn't, as much as it disappoints me. It's a marketing exercise for Type S, at the kind of production levels they've already put into it, because animation is expensive.
Money. That's who.
It's going to be very risky to turn it into a full-fledged 12-episode show.
Okay, maybe it doesn't need to be a series, but think about it. This could have been something in a similar vein to Le Mans 1955. Not a tragedy per se, but a greater love letter to Acuras and Hondas of the 2000s and 90s, a time that is long gone. And Acura, and Honda as a whole, is making an effort to provide something fun and somewhat reminiscent of those times. There is only so many companies, even Japanese brands, that you can say this truthfully. Also, because I'm a spoiled 20 centimeters short little brat, 30 centimeters? 10? 15? Who relies on free content for sustenance. Not to mention that Honda of Japan has something of their own.
Okay, so this was meant to be a segment about the anime adaptation of Super Cup, a Japanese manga about a girl and her Honda Super Cup bike. But upon watching the first episode and then looking at the first issue of the manga, it made me feel icky. So instead of that, comment below what your favorite car-related show is and why. It doesn't even have to be an anime. Let's open up our options. Alright, back to the video. In our modern times where car shows are endangered, perhaps something proclaiming itself as an anime series should attempt to be more ambitious. So for me, as both a young enthusiast and as someone trying to enter television and film, it's such a lost opportunity that Type S isn't more than this. Also, when you try to emulate Initial D and establish a theme about skill over money, then it really shouldn't focus so heavily on a limited edition supercar, but instead on the more humble entry-level sedan. Commenters understand that it's just an ad campaign, but many like it enough to want to see it in a more complete form, i.e. an actual animated series. And I do too. It doesn't need to be a grand international competition, nor some otherworldly cartoon adventure or some spy mission. Let's start off as a more slice-of-life type of show, a love letter to Honda, JDM culture, and the spirit of driving. The journey continues after Chiaki's win against Eric, which earns her global fame on social media. Thus, when her family's historic track is threatened with closure, Chiaki and Noboru start a driving academy to preserve the track and the spirit of driving. Meanwhile, an old family friend offers Chiaki a chance to enter the professional racing world and live up to her family's racing legacy.
we just definitely need to come to a decision about who we're has Integra.